Welcome to the Living While Loving Your Child Through Addiction podcast. Here, we focus on self care as we tend to our own lives while also extending love and compassion to our kids. This podcast offers science backed skills to bring hope and healing to your entire family. It's been a minute since my last episode, and I've got something very meaningful to share. A couple of months ago, I got the opportunity to give away a scholarship to the Peace of Mind group coaching program because a mom donated it. And being a part of that experience sparked an idea because it just felt so good to get to give that scholarship away. I've decided to start offering a quarterly scholarship to the Peace of Mind group coaching program based on need. And I'm calling it the Helena Johnson Memorial Scholarship in honor of Helena's giving heart. And it's about to be her 25th birthday. So every year on July 8th, I celebrate Helena's birthday by throwing a dog party for her little dog, Honey. I just decided to make Helena's birthday, her dog, Honey's birthday. But this year, I wanted to do something in addition to that. We're still having the dog party, but because 25 was such a big milestone to me, there was a lot of years that I told myself, I've just got to keep her alive until she's 25. It was like this little rhyme I had going in my mind. Just keep her alive until she's 25, until her brain is fully developed, her prefrontal cortex, the decision and reasoning part of your brain. I wanted, just get her to that point where that's fully developed and maybe she'll be less impulsive. Hopefully, she might make better decisions. But, just when I thought we were finally out of the woods and I really wasn't even so worried about that anymore, is when she passed away. She was only 21. I mean, she didn't make it to 25. And that's the thing about substance use. Like, it just doesn't wait for milestones. But I do have a lot of peace of mind because I left tough love behind and I learned a more compassionate way to support Helena. And I'm very proud of how I showed up for her after I learned that. And that's what I want to offer to another mom now, that peace of mind that she feels good about how she's showing up no matter what is going on with her child. So on July 8th, I'm going to be awarding the first Helena Johnson Memorial Scholarship. I'm going to put a link to the application in the show notes. It's completely confidential. Nobody's going to know that you applied or that you won. Nobody in the group will know that you're there on scholarship. And so if you have thought about joining the group, but it's something that's out of your budget, I would love for you to apply. And thinking about this scholarship and just the opportunity for transformation that it offers had me really reflecting on the moms that I have worked with over the last 6 years, and thinking about the ones who shifted from barely surviving to truly living their lives again, and reflecting on my own experience with that too, because that's all we want. I mean, we get so focused on our kids, we lose ourselves in that. And these are the moms that are living their own life. They're going on vacation, spending time with their friends or their spouse. They feel healthy. They can focus at work. They're happy. They had the best possible relationship that they can with their child based on what their child is available for. And they're no longer consumed by anxiety, fear, and guilt. And it's not that they never feel those things ever, or they never experience any pain and discomfort, but they are able to keep everything in perspective. And there's one thing that all of those mothers had in common, and that's that at some point they realized that their child and the chaos that was coming from their substance use was not just their child's problem to change. And they started taking radical responsibility for their own healing, for their own peace, and for their own happiness. They stopped waiting for their child to change. They stopped hoping that if their son or daughter changed, that everything would just fall into place. They were intentional. They still wanted a better life for their son or daughter. That didn't just go away. And like I said before, they still hurt at times. That didn't just disappear, but some things really shifted. They started doing what the name of this podcast is, which is living their life while loving their child through their addiction. Those parents created a new normal for themselves, one where they mattered, one where their happiness mattered again. I don't know why I'm losing my voice. One where they let themselves feel a joy, joy that was already there. They just weren't allowing it, even when hard things are happening. And that is a critical turning point for healing, not just for the parents, but for their whole family. And for me, that's what made sense of something that I used to hear all of the time that used to drive me a little bit crazy, which was just focus on yourself. And it made me frustrated because, yeah, it's true. I do need my own attention. But what really made me struggle with that was the second part of the message, the part that said, there's nothing that you can do to help your daughter. And that part I could not accept. But I also didn't know what to do instead. And by then, I had really lost hope. I still wanted desperately to help Helena, but deep down, I did not believe that anything was going to help us because nothing had for so many years. Everything I tried just seemed to backfire. And I was stuck in this exhausting place of, wanting to have change, but also feeling like nothing that I did mattered. And that hopelessness kept me stuck for years. And there were two things that helped me find my way out of that hopelessness, like those parents I was talking about a few minutes ago, the ones that I have worked with that have started living their lives again. And the first thing, of course, was me finding out about craft. And it was this first time that I really got permission to show up with love and compassion and be able to help Helena in that way. I didn't have to try to fix her or control her, but I could just show up differently in a way that felt good to me. And so suddenly I had direction, I had tools, and I had some hope. And the second thing was hearing something from my first coach that I had never heard in my life before. And I can't believe that I had never heard this. And that was that nobody else had to change for me to be okay. I'm like, what? How did I not hear this my whole life? How did I always think that other people had to change for me to be okay? And learning that gave me hope because not only could I help Helena, but I could create a life for myself that felt meaningful again. A life that I did not have to wait for her to be okay before I could breathe or laugh again or just start healing from all of the pain that I had experienced. And that belief that I could change and that me changing would matter is what allowed me to finally take action, what gave me some hope. And that's when I got confirmation that healing and supporting a child through substance use, it requires a two-part approach. Part one is about us doing the work ourselves, that deep, uncomfortable work that we want our kids to do for themselves. And part two is learning the actual tools that help us show up differently in our relationship. So let me explain a little bit more about what I mean. That I was always telling Helena to meditate, to exercise, to eat healthy, to drink more water, to make sure she slept well at night, and to just stop being so anxious, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I didn't know how to do any of those things myself. My life was a mess. I was isolated. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't eating right. And I was stressed out all the time, but I was blaming her for it. And I thought that I was helping her by saying those things. I really did. That's why I was saying them. But all I was doing was just trying to manage her behavior so that I didn't have to sit with the discomfort of it. And at some point, I realized, okay, Heather, nobody is coming to rescue you. You have to do this on your own. And I had to make the choice to stop suffering and putting my happiness in Helena's hands when she was struggling. So I started to take my own advice. Every time that I told her to do something, I started to ask myself, am I doing that? And when the answer was no, it was obvious what I needed to work on. So I started learning how to feel more emotions other than fear. And I started making sure that I was exercising and eating healthy and sleeping and drinking water, like all of these little things that I was totally neglecting. And I finally admitted that this was not Helena's problem, that my pain about her was mine to process and heal. And as long as I was putting that responsibility on her to change, then I was stuck. And here's the most important thing that I think most parents miss about this is that taking care of yourself is not separate from helping your child. Like we all want to just be able to do something to help them, but taking care of ourselves is helping them. It is doing something for them. When you regulate your nervous system, when you build a meaningful life and you're able to be calm and compassionate, you create a safe place for them to be able to consider change. And you remove the burden of them being responsible for your happiness when they're already struggling. And in this circumstance where all you desire is certainty about the future, you can actually create certainty in yourself and in your ability to take care of yourself and to have the resilience that you need for the marathon that you're in. The most important certainty that you can create is being proud of yourself for how you show up during this really difficult experience. And this also prepares you for step two. So, step one can be considered putting on your own oxygen mask first, like they tell you in the airplane. And step two is offering your son or daughter their mask and not wrestling them and trying to force them to put it on, but making it, more likely that they're going to put it on. So, part two for me was learning the right tools that I needed. I learned how to actually support Helena in the way that she needed me to, not the way that I thought I was supposed to or the way that I wanted to. And a lot of this came more naturally to me just as I started taking care of myself and understanding myself better. As I felt better, it was easier for me to be compassionate. I stopped lecturing and trying to guilt and pleading with her to stop because all that did was just create more distance in our relationship. It just pushed her away. I stopped trying to convince her that my way was the right way or the only way. I started even to wonder sometimes, like, is my way really right? Like maybe she knows something that I don't. I stopped listening just to figure out how to get her to do things my way. And I started listening to genuinely understand her. I practiced being curious instead of controlling. And I collaborated with her instead of being so confrontational. I started treating her just the way that I wanted to be treated, with respect, with with patience, with faith in her inner strength. Even when I wasn't sure, even when I had no certainty, I just leaned into those things. I learned how to celebrate her small wins instead of only focusing on everything that wasn't perfect yet. Like before that, nothing mattered. If we hadn't reached the finish line, then nothing good that had happened mattered. And I started celebrating those small wins because those wins really matter. They are signs of progress. And, it felt good to me to notice them. And it felt good to Helena to be recognized. And I stopped assuming what she was capable of. Like, just because I am capable of something doesn't mean that she was capable of it. And I started giving her more grace there. And instead, meeting her where she was at and not where I wish she would be. And doing that created safety, rebuilt trust, and that's what allowed us to reconnect slowly. It was a slow process. It happened on Helena's timeline, absolutely not mine. If it was my timeline, I would have just said, sorry, and everything would have been okay. But that was not getting by with her. And I would have missed out on all of this growth and healing that I did in the process. Like she really pushed me to be a better person. And I just want to say one last time that society tells us that it's our kids' problem. And that's why so many families are stuck. That because we think it's only their problem. But if their substance use is destroying our life and it's taking our health and it's like eating us alive, then it is our problem too. And it's good news that it's your problem because if it's not, then you can't fix it. But if it is your problem, then you can fix it. And it was such a gift for me to learn that nobody in my life has to change for me to be okay. That all I have to do is take radical responsibility, not just for my parenting, but for my whole life. And that's when healing really happens. And I'll be honest, at first I was doing it just so I could show her how it's done. I just wanted to be an example and show her that I could do it. But eventually I started to feel better and I was motivated to do it for myself. And the other gift that I got out of that was making the most out of the time that I had with Helena. I didn't know in 2018 when so many years had already been wasted by tough love and pain and fighting and all of those things. I didn't know at that time in 2018 when I found craft and I started working with a coach and I started changing how I was showing up. And really, I changed my whole life. I was working with all kinds of people because I just didn't want to live that way anymore. And I had no idea at that time that Helena only had three more. There goes my voice again. Helena only had 3 more years to live. But there was something inside of me at that time saying, make the most of what you have available to you right now. Connect with her in a way that she is capable of connecting with you. Don't miss out because she can't connect the way you want to, because it's not easy. Figure out how to get your needs met as a mom without waiting for her to change. And I listened to that little voice inside of me and I figured it out. I accepted that our relationship looked completely different than I wanted it to. It looked like she needed a ride, so I gave her one and made the most of that couple of minutes I was in the car with her. It looked like she needed food, so I took her to a fast food restaurant or brought her some food and made the most of that couple of minutes that I got to interact with her. Sometimes that was literally the extent of our connection. But once I stopped resenting that and expecting and needing more and working on fulfilling my life in other ways as well, she started choosing to just see me because she wanted to. And I've experienced that with other moms that I've worked with too. Like they're like, oh my gosh, my son or daughter just reached out to me out of the blue because of the changes that they have been making with their interactions with them. They just sent them a joke or something, things that had never happened, them not reaching out just because they wanted something. They just reached out to connect. And that's what happens when we're patient. And I know that some of you listening to this are in really hard situations. You know, there's a lot of people whose kids have co occurring conditions, and you might be going through even more than I went through, but you still have power in your situation. You still have the ability to take radical responsibility for how you experience it and to change the way you're living your life. I have watched parents with incredibly hard circumstances completely turn their life around, not by fixing their kids, but by really focusing on themselves and their own healing. So, my question for you, or questions, are what would change if you believed that healing your life also helped your child? And who could you become if you stopped waiting for your child to be okay first? That's it for this episode. Thank you for listening to the podcast today and listening through my squeaky voice. If you found this episode helpful, I would so appreciate it if you would take a moment to leave a 5-star review. Your feedback really helps other parents decide if they're going to listen to the podcast or not. And it can mean a parent getting help or not. And if you are tired of feeling stuck and scared and unsure of what to do next, you can schedule a road to recovery call with me. We will talk about what is possible for you and your family when you have real support from somebody who understands what you're going through. You do not have to navigate this alone anymore. The Road to Recovery call link is in the show notes. And until next time, remember that taking care of yourself is not a luxury, it is a necessity, and you matter too.